Did you know that in just over the last 20 years, Window World of St. Louis has improved the look and thermal efficiency for over 80,000 customers in St. Louis? Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now, Window World is offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 800 Get Windows for a free in-home, no-pressure estimate. That's Window World at 800 Get Windows. They're the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues.
Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney.
You're drinking water, eating clean, but still exhausted. This week, we uncover the hidden mineral deficiencies that could be draining your energy and slowing your metabolism. Don't miss it.
Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney. Saturdays at noon on News Talk STL. To find out more about Simply Health Integrated Medical, log on to simplyhealthintegrated.com.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hi, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and I'm here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, capitalism, that is increasingly under attack. But why is a free market system so important?
The simple answer, society is much better off because of free markets. Free markets allow individuals and business owners to freely choose what to consume, how to save, where to live and do business, what to produce, and how to protect our valuable resources, and so much more. And this can all happen without requiring heavy government interference. In a nutshell, free markets empower people to live their lives the way they choose. And this makes all our lives better.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Another beautiful spring day out there, sunny, breezy, and warm. Southwest winds at 10 to 18 miles per hour, and the high today about 81 degrees. Lows tonight in the 60s. A chance of a shower or thunderstorm tomorrow, about a 40% chance, especially in the first part of the day. A lot of that rain will slide south of the metro area later on. And we continue to see daily rain chances, but warm temperatures as we head through the weekend. But again, lots of dry time in there. In the First Alert KMOV Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Hello and welcome to a beautiful Thursday afternoon. This is Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. I'm Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn. Lot to talk about today. Lots of great company to help us with those conversations. The latest on the ceasefire and the situation in the Middle East with Iran and Israel and Lebanon and the Straits of Hormuz, everything. Lots of updates and lots to talk about and unpack there as we go through the afternoon. We've got Democrats once again, officially meeting about invoking the 25th Amendment. Talk about a waste of time on at a time when there's so many other things to do. But we've got some announcements, got some really bold statements from people like Hakeem Jeffries and Rashida Tlaib and others. We'll fill you in on here as we go through the afternoon. We have some reaction to this week's elections across the state of Missouri. some details on the laws, the new laws that Governor Mike Kehoe has signed this week. His first signing of bills into law this year. So we'll get you some of those details as well. We've got, as I mentioned, a lot of great company to help us with these conversations. Our very own producer, Emily Worthmore, is going to be with us in the 3 o'clock hour. She was recently at CPAC and want to talk to her about that experience. She's got some great stories to share with us. Looking forward to that, again, just after 3 o'clock. Also, this afternoon, Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. She'll be with us in about 35 minutes or so. And we are also going to get a late week check-in. We always get an early week, beginning of the week check-in on the markets and the economy from Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. But he is going to give us a late week check-in with everything going on in this world. I thought it was an important time to sort of check in there. So Paul's going to join us here in about 15 minutes. And right now, starting things off, I told you we got a lot of company today. The great Dr. Randy Tobler from The Randy Tobler Show every Saturday morning here on News Talk STL. Doc, thanks for your time. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's it going, man?
Well,
I'm not happy with what's going on over there, but whatever. It's an uncertain time, huh?
Well, fill us in on your concerns here. We have this ceasefire in place, but it seems to be very very tedious. It could go any way at any time. It feels like there's not a lot of doesn't seem to be a lot of strength in this ceasefire right now. What are your thoughts?
Allergy season is raging, so I haven't checked on the news since we got off the air this morning at 9. But it just seems very fragile, doesn't it? I'm not sure it really ever was in place to speak of in terms of a solid, consolidated, mutually. Well, seems like we're standing down. The Iranians aren't. They're attacking their neighbors and, sending drones everywhere and in Israel. But I don't know. I think this may be, as I zoom out and I look at the way Donald Trump is conducting these kinds of matters, and I think it applies to the tariffs too. While everyone, and we recognize that there's a lot of wisdom in the art of the deal type of a general strategy. Use leverage, really, don't be afraid to be bold about that, realizing you may not get everything you want, but boy, that's a great place to start. I get it. But I think the one thing that's maybe lost on him is that when you're the CEO of a company and a private company at that, an owner, you have a lot more flexibility and you have a lot less need to work with other people to get your goals. And I mean more like working with your allies than, working. I would never advocate working with your enemies or your opponents or the people you're negotiating with in the same way you would negotiate with your friends or work with them. So that work with terminology is different. But things can't ever go in a geopolitical world that we live in. Things don't go at the speed of private business. And I think, a lot of the saber rattling that on one hand is refreshing to hear what people are thinking and not having to have every word calibrated and checked with your communications director and, and cleansed all that way, sanitized. Yeah, I guess that's sort of refreshing in one way. But I think a huge mistake when it comes to war matters is to tell your enemy what you might do. Too often, too early, and too much, especially when it's existentially important. I think that was the only criticism. It's a major criticism of what happened with this whole warning that we were going to, destroy the power plants and everything. I don't disagree with the objective. I don't disagree with the mission. I just think that he boxed himself into a corner when he gave advance warning, and the next thing you saw, the little old ladies and kids being lined up, as moats and protective, areas around power plants and on bridges. I hope that the next action, Tony, will be when Iran either continues to, close the straits and squeeze them down and or fire, missiles and drones at other people or Israel. I hope that without warning, without anything, in the stealth of night, I want to see an operation, Midnight Hammer kind of a thing, then do what he threatened to do. Without a word being spoken. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I would like to see. And I've actually checked that with a few of my military friends, and actually it seems to be pretty on target with what some of them would like to see too.
We've talked about this a couple of times, kind of exactly falls in line with what you're saying here, Doc. this president, and this is not a Donald Trump issue. This is an every president issue, especially when you're talking about conflict on the world stage, military action. If you are invoking deadlines and you're putting in timetables and your ultimatums come and go without anything happening, very much like the Obama red line. The more that happens, the less credibility you're going to have. And I think the one thing that Donald Trump has had more than presidents in the past up to this point is that credibility of if he says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And I'm not saying that that's not what happened this week, because according to the president, the conditions were met by Iran to stop the military operation from going down at 8 p.m. Central or Eastern time on Tuesday evening, as we were all, watching that deadline that the president had put out there. But now, as the days have gone on, it doesn't seem like there was quite as much of an agreement or understanding. There's all of this talk about Israel and Lebanon, and Iran says that was part of the ceasefire, and Israel says no, it wasn't. And we've got all of these sort of conflicting reports about what's going on. And so with that out there, also today, the former Vice President Mike Pence was on Fox News this morning doing an interview warning the Trump administration not to repeat the mistakes of the Obama and Biden years. He said he praised the recent military success, but cautioned that Vice President J.D. Vance and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff must demand the unconditional abandonment of Iran's nuclear program. And, Doc, not to get too long into this, but his Mike Pence's point was kind of exactly yours, that you've got to lay down the law. You've got to make it a clear, bold statement and demand. And if they don't, adhere to those demands exactly as you have laid them out, then that's when you have to do something about it. And I agree with Mike Pence on this one, I think. And how do you see this playing out? And the reason that he brought up, by the way, J.D. Vance and Steve Witkoff is because they are heading over to the Middle East right now to conduct these negotiations. So hopefully we'll get some more information from them soon. Your thoughts?
No, I mean, it's you build up a lot of, I think, political and respect cred by being decisive, right? And he showed that with sending the National Guard to D.C. and to L.A. And I mean, that's good. You're decisive. I'm going to do it. I do it. Memphis, look what happened. Good things happened there, right? The violence went down. And that was good, and you get credibility for that. And oh my God, the borders are shut down within a week of inauguration. What the heck's this all about? This guy means business, and he says business, and he does business. You erode and you spend an awful lot of that political capital when you do the Obama the two-step, which is what it's turning into, at least optically. And my proof of the matter is, politically now, it's going to hurt him by galvanizing the base, which we learned in this recent election. Really, I mean, the base is on the other side is really fired up, and he's galvanizing them. I'm looking at a PBS article from 2 days ago. 3 times Trump has given Iran deadlines and then delayed them. Well, if you're on the other side of the fence and you're wishy-washy, I don't know if I'm going to go to the polls, you're darn well going to go to the polls, because you're going to see the rhetoric that's going to further infuriate you and remind you what a jerk Donald Trump is. Again, from the left's perspective, right? Mm. And I just think that he's got the next move has to be decisive and has to be probably with less warning, like a thief in the night, to use a biblical term.
Well,
that's what I think.
Doc, we only have a couple minutes left here, and since you brought up the left reaction, I'm gonna.
I'm not justifying it.
No, I know, I understand completely, but this will be our last point, because this shows you just how there might be some legitimate criticism or opportunity for Trump's opponents to do something, say something that could have impact on voters. I'm not sure this is it, because this is the left wing party of today. Talk of invoking the 25th Amendment is reemerging among House Democrats after more than a year of dismantling speculation that they would seek to remove Trump from power. Rather than quash the discussion, House Democratic leadership appears to be encouraging it. Yesterday, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries scheduled a Friday briefing on the 25th Amendment for his caucus to be hosted by Representative Jamie Raskin and the House Judiciary Committee Democrats. Quote, shockingly, Donald Trump threatened to escalate his war of choice in a profane Easter Sunday rant and to eradicate an entire civilization. Jeffries wrote in a letter yesterday, continuing, quote, we will continue to unleash maximum pressure on Republicans to put patriotic duty over party loyalty, that's rich, and join Democrats in stopping the madness. That's the House Minority Leader. That's Democratic leadership. Rashida Tlaib also saying this week, quote, it's time to invoke the 25th Amendment. This maniac should be removed from office. Representative Robert Garcia, Democrat out of California, this week, putting out a statement, quote, he's out of control and his cabinet and those around him must be loyal to the Constitution and invoke the 25th Amendment. He must be removed. Doc, this is go ahead.
I mean, look, Robert Garcia being from Democrat, I mean, he has no standing, right? Because by definition, if you're a Democrat from California, you're a maniac that should be removed from office. But that aside, I think it's a great opportunity for someone like Eric Schmidt or someone with the ability to playfully make a point and forcefully make a point or maybe John Kennedy. When that hearing comes around, obviously it would be in the Senate, in the House first. But if it ever got to, there was an impeachment or some kind of a resolution, and then went to the Senate. Why not just do that debate performance, a nice little edited montage from the debate performance of Joe Biden, say, I'll meet your 25th Amendment and raise you one. Next.
Yeah, no kidding. And I don't know, like with all of this stuff that's going on in this world, and we've got so much more to unpack as we go through the afternoon here, the serious issues that you could be raising, this is what the Democrats decide to go with. Back to the 25th Amendment.
Let them have it. Let them self-immolate and stand in a corner and watch while they do it.
Yeah.
You're right.
Amen.
Yeah.
Dr. Randy Tobler, host of the Randy Tobler Show every Saturday morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on News Talk STL. Great to talk with you, Doc. Look forward to talking again
Likewise.
soon. Have a great rest of
Likewise.
your day.
Have a good one. Bye.
All right, great stuff there from Dr. Randy Tobler. And as I mentioned, every Monday we talk to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments to get that beginning of the week check on the markets and the economy. Well, with everything happening this week, specifically and particularly surrounding the Straits of Hormuz, I wanted to get a sort of late week check with Paul this week as well. So Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments is going to join us next.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinions.
Democrats and Chuck Schumer that are causing the long lines.
They think we ought to abolish ICE, just like they wanted to abolish police.
Nuke the filibuster in order to pass the SAVE Act.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org. Hunters, we are about 2 months away from turkey season. Are you ready? Hey, it's Mike Ferguson here, and if you stop by and visit my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors, you will be. Whistle Pig is stocked with decoys from Avian X and DSD, clothing from Bandit and First Light, calls from Rolling Thunder and Woodhaven, plus Whistle Pig has those hard-to-find tungsten shells from Apex and Migra. Whistle Pig Outdoors in Troy, Missouri. Just go to whistlepigoutdoors.com.
This year, America turns 250, and News Talk STL is celebrating our nation's semi-quincentennial all year long. News Talk STL, #1 for live and local Soros-free talk, with proud supporters of our 250th birthday celebration. Freddy's Market, Iron Bear Customs, and STL Windows and Doors. 250 years strong, and we're just getting started. 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Chris Arps. Becky and I recently discovered a restaurant that's quickly become one of our go-to restaurants, Timothy's in Creve Coeur. Led by executive chef Will Mabry, Timothy's serves contemporary American cuisine with a touch of Southern charm. Dishes like pastrami, smoked lamb, and shrimp and grits. My wife absolutely loved the lobster pot pie, and everything we've tried has been incredible. Amazing house-made desserts and over 500 wines to choose from. Enjoy dinner 7 nights a week, plus lunch, brunch, and private events. Timothy's in Creve Coeur at 12710 Olive Boulevard or online at timothysstl.com.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. But they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up. They were chopping them down.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Thanks again to Dr. Randy Tobler for starting the show with us on this very busy Thursday afternoon. Now we are going to talk to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. Paul is always with us on Mondays to kick off the week and get us an update on the economy and the markets as we start each and every week. But with everything happening in the world today, I thought it was a good idea to get a second check-in with Paul this week to see what's going on. So, Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments, thanks as always for your time, buddy.
Yeah, you got it, Tony. I tell you what, we had our talk on Monday, and the markets were starting off strong. But the very next day, the markets shot up like a rocket, all on news of this ceasefire with Iran and hopefully getting the Straits of Hormuz open. Now, the Straits are not open yet, but the market is I think the market's just kind of shrugging that off a little bit right now because it's just going to wait and see whether or not those straits do open. But today, all indexes are up, and I think a little bit of that has to do with another good headline, and that is that President Trump has urged Netanyahu, who is doing this, beginning to have deeper talks with Lebanon. So it kind of seems like over the last few days, we've taken a step in the direction of peace. And of course, the markets love that, especially when it's in the Mideast region.
So, since you touched on that, I want to bring up some of the sticking points or some of the issues that we are hearing about and they're facing with this ceasefire. So, for just a second, take off the financial advisor hat and go back to politician Paul Curtman, or maybe even military veteran Paul Curtman, as we do this one. Yeah. So you mentioned that Israel and Lebanon are in negotiation now. So the reason that's important is because the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, which is located in Lebanon, is the biggest sticking point right now with this ceasefire, because the United States and Israel say that whatever fighting is happening between Israel and Hezbollah does not fall under the ceasefire agreement, and Iran says it does. So Iran is accusing the United States of breaking the ceasefire by allowing this conflict to continue. So that's, whether who you believe or all that, that's, that's all aside. That's what they are saying publicly is the issue. And it was announced today by Benjamin Netanyahu that Israel has begun direct negotiations with Lebanon concerning the disarmament of Hezbollah. So, maybe we will see some steps in that direction. But I think it's important people understand where, what the sticking point, or at least one of the major ones, is with this whole issue. And then, of course, you touched on the Strait, Paul. We saw some reports and some videos today of, the occasional ship passing through, but you're right. For the most part, certainly not open back up to, full capacity as we have seen. So with all this in mind and with, this conflict regarding the ceasefire and what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, how do you feel about where we are at with the ceasefire and its chances of holding and maybe even turning into something more permanent in the coming weeks?
Okay, I'm going to be very plain spoken about this.
Do it.
I'm not incredibly hopeful about it, and I only say that because I'm trying to remember. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but it seems like the first ceasefires never work.
Mm-hmm.
It all, especially with Iran. We've seen this with Israel and Hezbollah, or we've seen this with Israel and any one of their enemies around their borders over the last several decades. It always seems like the first round of ceasefire never works. And so eventually someone's going to fire a shot, fire a mortar, fire a cannon, and then there's going to be some more fighting. And then it's like, okay, quickly, let's come back to the table. Another ceasefire. We got to work this out. I do believe that the Iranians want to see this end. The thing is they want to see it end on their terms. Now, I think it's kind of funny that they're saying, oh, well, of course, Israel and Hezbollah, that's part of the ceasefire too. We have been accusing them for years and years and years of funding and training everybody from Hezbollah to ISIS to everybody else. So, while we're engaged in a ceasefire with Iran, Iran doesn't want to see their assets that they've invested in over the last couple of decades completely wiped out by Israel. So that's why they want this to be part of the ceasefire too. They want Israel to come to a complete grinding halt. I'm just saying, it's possible that this would give their assets around the region opportunity to recoup and reorganize and maybe even reattack. So I just don't think the first round of ceasefire is going to be all that effective. I hope that I'm wrong, Tony. I hope that I'm wrong. I want to see peace there. I don't want to see people being killed. I would like to see the Straits of Hormuz get open because all these different countries around the world that are dependent on that oil for their people. Whenever economies begin to go down, I don't know exactly what the statistic looks like, but it's just kind of something that I've observed in numbers over the last several years is, people get sick and more people die in those times because the economy is doing worse. It's never good when oil stops moving to its final destination. We want to get that oil open. We want a ceasefire. We want to have peace in the Middle East that is more longstanding than just one of these temporary ceasefires. I just don't know if the first one's going to get us there.
So stick in the mode of veteran Paul Curtman for this next question, because I think to me this is, and people aren't talking about it in these terms, but I feel like this is what I'm about to say is truly at the crux of everything happening right now and how to move forward and if to move forward with any more military action. There seems to be two main points that everybody agrees with, everybody with any common sense and wants to, anybody that's willing to, honestly admit that a terrorist regime with nuclear weapons in Iran is a bad thing and needs to be gone. Everybody in that camp, which again is everybody on earth with common sense, seems to agree on a couple of things. One being that the regime, that leadership group, needs to be completely eradicated, pulled out from the roots. There can't be anything left of that regime or of that group. Otherwise, it will, grow back into power over some time. And so that's number one. Number two is that it's massively important to allow the Iranian citizens to then take control of their own destiny and install a new government and, hopefully become a very successful major player on the world stage again without the oppression of this terroristic regime. Would you agree that those are two of the main points that everybody is sort of agreeing on in the way forward?
I would agree that both of those points are incredibly important to make sure that this problem with Iran and the problem that they have been regionally and globally in terms of their terrorist activities, the only way that all that can go away is if it is completely rooted out, both from the military and both from inside the government. Yeah, absolutely.
So my question is, can both of those things be accomplished at the same time? Because you can't, Trump and the military, and I understand this completely, I'm not being critical at all, the idea of not hitting the electrical grid and not blowing up their bridges and not taking out their oil refineries so the people of Iran have a fighting chance to have some success once the regime is gone. I completely understand that. But can you do that? And also, can you hold back on those things and also still accomplish the idea of eliminating the existing regime completely from the ground up?
I don't think so. I think that the only way to get there is you have to do both of these things at the exact same time. One thing that I heard, I was listening to a general, it might have been General Mattis talking about this on a podcast recently, talking about studies that the U.S. has done when it comes to different tyrannical regimes around the world over time throughout history. And one of the points that he made was we know that we'll never be able to really get regime change if we're dealing with people that hold an ideology that gives them a pass just to execute their own people in mass. Because what that does is it just completely strikes total terror. We talk about them funding terrorist activities around the world. Right there in Iran, they are their own worst enemy. They're the biggest terrorists just to the people of Iran. And so if the people of Iran don't have enough of these principles of self-determination that would allow them to fight this fight themselves, it probably won't ever happen. And it all comes back to the fact that they have an ideology there that completely disvalues human life, completely diabolically opposed to Western civilization, where we value life, where we want to pursue happiness. It's just not the same. Not all cultures and countries and regimes are created equal, but that's just the way that it is.
Mm-hmm. Talking to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. Got just a couple minutes left here, Paul. I want to talk about the Strait of Hormuz. That's been a conversation, the main point of our conversations when we were talking about this war's impact on the world economy, and obviously that all based in oil prices and things like that. I can't remember if it was you. I mentioned earlier this week Donald Trump floating out the idea of tolls, but I only kind of did. I kind of brushed it aside. I read the quote, but I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it because I didn't at the time really think there was a whole lot to it. But that's back in the news today, so I wanted to get your thoughts on it. The United Nations Shipping Agency warned today that imposing a toll on ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz would set a dangerous precedent. The remark comes after the president, Donald Trump, suggested again yesterday, so this is a couple times now that he's mentioned this, he suggested yesterday that there may be a U.S.-Iranian toll system coming for ships that travel through the key waterway. He said this to ABC News, saying, quote, "We're thinking of doing it as a joint venture. It's a way of securing it, also securing it from lots of other people." The president continued, quote, "There is no international agreement where tolls can be introduced for transit." Oh, I'm sorry, that was the end of the president after securing it for lots of other. That's the end of the Trump quote. The UN responded today with a quote saying, "There is no international agreement where tolls can be introduced for transiting international ships. Any such toll would set a dangerous precedent." And they go on to, put out their reasons for not wanting this toll to be put in place. What do you think about the idea of a toll for the use of the Strait of Hormuz, and what kind of impact, positive or negative, could that have on the world's economy? Do you think it's serious? And do you think it's serious, or do you think this is part of Donald? When Donald Trump is just saying everything that he's thinking all at once, and there's not a huge plan behind it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think that him saying, here we are, we're in a ceasefire with our enemy, Iran, right now, and we're going to be having talks with them. I'm not sure that the talks have gotten to the point of them agreeing, yeah, we could do a joint venture toll. I think that is just President Trump right now. And maybe he's doing that just to seed the idea to the Iranians, to let them know, to let the people know, listen, we want you to be successful. We just don't want you, sending money around the world with suicide bombers to blow people up and destroy institutions and people's way of life. Maybe that's all that it is. I do believe, though, that if we go this route already with all the NATO countries that have pulled out of helping us or allowing the U.S. to use airspace to continue Operation Epic Fury, I kind of think that they're putting Trump in a place where he's like, hey, I've just learned the U.S. can do this all by ourselves. And if I was the UN, I would not be immediately lambasting Trump again for this idea. Like they're not so stupid, right, that they haven't got him figured out, because what he does is he talks in the moment. And a lot of times the things that he says winds up being used as leverage in the private talks that he's having with people when they're trying to reach a deal. I think I said we did talk about this Monday, and if anybody could do this, Donald Trump could do it. If anybody could do it, he's the guy that could probably find a way to get this done. But I think that would be a very difficult road to travel, actually getting there to where we're charging tolls.
It reminds me of tariffs. It's sort of that, to me, it's in that same sort of ballpark of the president, coming up with ways to, and in his justification, and he's right, I think, in many cases, I'm not sure about this one, but in many cases about, hey, look, you rely on the United States and, our safety and our economy and our people buying your products, whatever it may be, but we don't get treated as fairly or we don't get compensated as much as we do for all of that work. That was the basic, message with tariffs, at least, and I feel like that's falls under the same umbrella here. Would something like that, if it were to go into effect, have, you think, a major impact on oil prices across the world and the economy and things like that, or would it just settle into being the norm? And
that's just a really interesting question. I mean, if the U.S. is engaged in essentially a toll highway through the Straits of Hormuz, now we have a vested stake in the security of the Straits of Hormuz. And although charging a toll to move the oil through might make prices go up, they also might stabilize because the region would be much more secure because of the U.S.'s interest in securing the straits in order to make the toll possible.
So, Paul, we're almost out of time here talking to Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments. We'll, of course, have Paul back on Monday at his normal time to kick off the week. But between now and then, over the weekend, what are the most important things that could happen, or what are you looking at short term, whether it be the next couple days or the next couple weeks, good or bad? What are the actions, the movements, whatever it may be, that could have a major impact one way or the other on the economy? What are you focused on the most?
Probably in this order: news from Operation Epic Fury delivered by the White House or the Department of Defense. And then number two, the economic data. We've had some good economic numbers that have been revised, but we have an inflation report coming out tomorrow. And so we want to see the economy continue to move in the right direction. So that's number two on my list. First, the war. Number two, the economic data that's being released this week.
What if the Artemis crew meets aliens on the dark side of the moon while they're up in space? Would that have major...
I don't know if I'm going to be finding new stocks to invest in because of that, or if I'm going to be like, okay, it's done. I'm out.
I don't
know.
I think those guys come home tomorrow. It has been cool to watch the space. Humans go further in space away from Earth than we have at any time in our history, and it's barely been a blip on the news cycle because of everything else happening. It's pretty amazing.
Or all the UFO news. They've had congressional hearings.
Yeah.
Congress is finally talking about they were going to release all this UFO data, and it's like, oh, we don't care. We know they're out there. So, show up already. I mean, if they're there, let's just see it. It's like, what are we waiting for?
Yeah, they've been hanging out on the dark side of the moon this whole time. That's what I've been told. So, great stuff, Paul. Thanks, as always, for your time. Really appreciate a little overtime on a Thursday afternoon this week, and have a great weekend, and we'll catch up with you on Monday.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, great stuff there. Paul Curtman, PR Curtman Investments. If you are looking for some guidance on your financial path, you need an expert like Paul and his team at PR Curtman Investments. All right. Speaking of another regular guest who also is a veteran and somebody who is, all over these stories, Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. She joins us next.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Is the Strait open and has the bombing stopped, or does the war rage on? Steve Bucci discusses the possibility of peace in the Middle East at 4:25.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Hey, folks, it's Jamie Allman here for the Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway. I love this team so much, and Rodney and Jen love the team so much, I became a member. So now I'm an agent with the Walner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, and I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that we're going to get you into a home really super easily. and with the lowest cost you're ever going to find, and make sure we find you that dream home. We're also going to list your home and get the top dollar for your home. I'm telling you, Rodney and Jen love this business. You can tell it is infectious, and I'm so happy to be a real estate agent there with them. 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD. Whether you are buying your home or selling your home, I'm telling you what, the costs are going to be absolutely totally minimal, but the professionalism and getting the job done for you is going to be 100%. The Wallner home selling team of Berkshire Hathaway, 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they were very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
No paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
License number GL250000615.
We've seen all kinds of clogs, so remember the rule. Only flush 3 things. Number 1, number 2, and toilet paper.
What about my dinosaurs?
No?
My monster truck?
Nope.
What about...
If it's not the big 3, don't flush it.
But if someone does flush a dinosaur...
Call Grasser. We clear the clog and get things moving again.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Continuing the conversation now with our friend Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. And Virginia, I am so excited to talk to you about one of the stories that you have up right now at thedailywire.com, because I see a headline and a picture of Hassan Piker, who I go down, a lot of different rabbit holes in my spare time. Yeah. And I am somebody who,
so I've heard.
Off the air, I am somebody who is very into internet drama, or like commentator, like political commentators, like internet commentators, like people on YouTube and Twitch and those type of platforms, not the people on the major news networks, although I'm very into that stuff as well. And so I am extremely familiar with Hassan Piker and the section of the internet that loves him and look to him for news and information and look at him as a, somebody who is telling the truth, quote unquote, about, what's really happening in the world. And then also the massive pushback against him and that group and the misinformation and the lies he spreads. He's one of them. The only time he's ever, I think, really cracked into the mainstream news cycle is when he famously said in a live stream that America deserved 9/11. But this guy, he wields massive. He's very unknown to like if you're not into the internet culture or the internet news sphere, then he's very much an unknown. But he does wield massive influence, I think, especially with the younger generation, when it comes to people who are looking for the quote unquote truth, the news and information about what's happening across the world. And apparently So you could take. I just wanted to kind of set the stage there about who this guy is. But apparently the Democrats are now courting him and his group because they see value in being able to, I guess, reach his audience. That's a terrifying prospect that the Democrats would be in bed with somebody like Hassan Piker. Fill us in there, please.
And here's the thing. I'm going to add a little bit to your background here.
Please do.
He's not really unknown. He's been connected with kind of the Young Turks and that group, and he's been kind of in the periphery for a long time. But he was so far out of mainstream when he said things like America deserved 9/11, or after October 7th, he said it didn't matter if Hamas committed sexual violence against young Israeli children because Israel is still worse than Hamas.
Yeah,
So
he's
this
massively anti-Semitic. He
was so far outside the mainstream that even the Young Turks kind of kept him at arm's length. Then that should tell you something.
I think his uncle is one of the founders of the Young Turks or something like that. He's got like family. Yeah, he's been, and you're exactly right. If you're too far left for the Young Turks, then oh my goodness.
Exactly. So the idea that he has now kind of mainstreamed himself, he didn't move to the mainstream. The American Democratic left moved to him.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the number of and of all the Democrats, guess which one stood up and said, no, this guy's too far left.
You cut out there just a little bit. Repeat that. What you just said.
Guess which sitting Democrat had the guts to stand up and say, no, we don't need to be associated with this guy at all.
John Fetterman.
Right in one. Because this is obviously that's the guy.
He's the only one that has it. If you say who's the only Democrat, the answer is almost always going to be John Fetterman.
Well, unless you're talking about the border in Texas, and then you're probably going to get Henry Cuellar on board
that's
as well.
Good point. You're good point. Yeah.
But so it just depends on what you're talking about. But if you're talking about Israel and you're talking about somebody who is wildly anti-Semitic and openly so. This is a guy who said China's doing it better than we are in terms of, like, getting things done. I'm like, they get things done because they trample their people. Like, come on, dude.
But now the Democrats are entertaining the idea of working with this guy, like, officially, publicly.
Oh my gosh. And there's actually a really good debate on this at the Bulwark of all places. Tim Miller and I can't remember her name is Sarah something, and they're talking about this. And Tim Miller made the case that because Hassan Piker has this popular Twitch stream and the popular YouTube channel, and he's got millions of followers, and he's saying, yeah, Democrats should go on his show, and they should. Because one, if you say we're not going to go on his show, you make him more powerful because you try to, the whole idea that you try to cancel somebody and it blows up in your face, right? And he was making the case that they should go on his show because then they're going to reach all these people, and you shouldn't throw that away. And Sarah's like, but you're giving him credibility when you go on his show. I mean, it would be like if, say, Marco Rubio runs for president and he goes on Nick Fuentes' show. How quickly would the right turn on him?
Yeah.
And that, there'd be a handful of people who'd be like, yay, he went to see our guy. Yeah. But they would be the crazy people.
Yeah.
You don't want to cater to the crazy. And so Sarah made the case, you don't cater to the crazy. And then you've got this equally crazy El Sayed, who is running for senator in Michigan. He's a mayor right now. I don't remember what city, but he's running for Senate in Michigan in a crowded Democrat primary. There's three Democrats running in this primary, and only one of them is sane. But El Sayed is running, and this is the guy that got caught on the audio recording saying he wasn't going to say anything about Khomeini's death.
Yeah.
Because some of his constituents would be sad.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So
We did that story a
this is
couple
the
weeks
guy.
ago. Yeah. That guy. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So
Go ahead.
he is doing a campaign event with
Hassan.
Piker.
Wow.
And the whole thing blew up because he went on Fox News, and here he is talking, El Sayed is on Fox News talking to Bill Hemmer, and Hemmer's like, dude, this guy said we deserve 9/11. Why are you going on his podcast or whatever? And he said, well, I just want people to listen to me. I think a case could be made that as a Democrat, not a lot of your viewers are going to vote for me either, but it's a good idea for me to be out in front of. So he basically said, going on Hassan Piker's show is no worse for a Democrat than going on Fox News.
Wow. That is, I cannot stress enough just how extreme Hassan Piker is. And even though he does have a big influence, he's even pushed away some of that. He's even lost some of his internet following because of how intensely far left he is.
So that people know just how ingrained he is in the current left. Okay. He has endorsed John Ossoff in Georgia. He's endorsed Janet Mills in Maine, the current governor running for to take Susan Collins' seat. He has been joined on his show more than once by California Rep. Ro Khanna, by AOC, by Bernie Sanders, and that's a short list. There's more.
Yeah. I mean, if you think Zoran Mamdani is all the way gone, he's even worse.
No, Mamdani's he's on the list too.
Yeah.
But Kristen Welker on NBC, Meet the Press, asked Ro Khanna on Sunday, hey, don't you think it was unwise to go on this guy's podcast? And he's like, no, I'd do it again.
Wow.
And Ro Khanna was one of the guys who was pushing for the Epstein files to be released. He has been, he's definitely a lefty. And he's from California and he's a Democrat. Of course he's a lefty. But he has been one of the people who you could actually have a conversation with up till now. Like, hey, let's talk about this. And if there's a bipartisan thing, chances are he's at least talking about it.
Yeah.
But
wow.
He's also like, yep, cool, I'll go back on his program.
That is unbelievable. I've known about Hassan Piker for years, and I'd never talk about him on the air because he's so extremely left, and I thought it was so irrelevant when it came to anything meaningful that it wasn't worth even giving him any publicity or even bringing him up. I never imagined that we would be here on the air having a conversation about this guy working with the Democratic Party. I mean, I can't stress enough how extremely left and dangerous and anti-Semitic this guy is. And if that shows you where the people in this Democratic Party stand, if they are standing with a guy like Hassan Piker. Go ahead.
And we're seeing a lot of like mainstream Democrats doing some really questionable things too. If you look at just the response to what happened this last week in Iran, when President Trump said he talked about a civilization ending, today or whatever, and people are like, oh my gosh, he's going to commit genocide. No, he's just speaking Iranian. Like, he's speaking the only language that the IRGC understands, and that's, we will destroy you and everything you hold dear. And oh, by the way, if you've been watching what we've been doing for the last 37 days, we can. Yeah. So, like, that's what he was doing. He wasn't talking about, like, bombing schools and everything else. He wasn't talking about any of that. And the Democrats, immediately, all of them, same talking point. Oh, my God, he's going to commit a war crime. He's going to kill everybody. Oh, my God, let me wring the hands a little bit more on TV. But, no, that's not what he was going to do. And if you believe that they thought that was what he was going to do, I've got some waterfront property in Oklahoma to tell you. Because, no, they don't believe that. They're not that stupid. They just think you are.
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
That's part one. But part two, then we get a deal. Iran comes to the table and says, "Oh, maybe we should rethink this." Okay, so now we're hashing out this deal, and everything's gonna change, and Trump doesn't commit war crimes. Surprise, surprise, because he wasn't going to anyway. But let's leave that aside. And all of a sudden, the Democrats are like, "Oh my God! Well, Trump was prepared to commit war crimes, but thank God Iran stepped up." I mean,
Virginia,
forget just how dangerous it is that we have a major political party saying Iran is the only thing preventing an American president from committing war crimes.
I'm so glad that you're talking about this stuff, Virginia. I can't recommend her articles enough. Go to dailywire.com. We're out of time, my friend, but thank you so much.
This is St. Louis County Councilman Mark Harder reminding you to check out my new show this weekend.
The St. Louis County Insider with Councilman Mark Harder.
That's me. Every Sunday evening at 5, we will explore with you behind-the-scenes stories and information that you won't hear anywhere else. Plus, we talk to decision makers and influencers that have impact on what's going on in St. Louis County and beyond.
The St. Louis County Insider with Councilman Mark Harder.
I'll talk to you Sunday night at 5, only on News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson. Mario's Donut Restaurant, that's your place to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From mouth-watering sandwiches, omelets, delicious gyros, and Mexican dishes, to their revamped menu with cannolis, tiramisu, baklava, and danishes. And don't forget those famous donuts. Dine in or carry out, Mario's friendly staff is ready to serve you with love and care. Mention News Talk STL when you visit, or just visit mariosdonutrestaurant.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The U.S. and Iran are under a fragile ceasefire. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte told a gathering at the Reagan Institute he understands both sides of the fallout between the U.S. and its European allies over the Strait of Hormuz.
Some allies were a bit slow, to say the least. In fairness, they were also a bit surprised. To maintain the element of surprise for the initial strikes, President Trump opted not to inform allies ahead of time, and I understand that.
Britain's top diplomat, meanwhile, rejecting Iran's push to charge ships to travel through the strait.
This is crucial for the global economy and for tackling the cost of living pressures here at home. And no country should be allowed to hijack these international shipping routes that impact the entire world and the entire world's economy.
That's UK Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper. Now, hurtling its way home from the moon, the Artemis II astronauts took a poignant page from Apollo 8 this week in proposing deeply personal names for a pair of lunar craters they saw on their flyby. Artemis II Commander Reed Wiseman says he appreciates the other astronauts asking permission to name a crater after his late wife, Carol.
My crewmates approached me when we were at Kennedy in quarantine, and they said, hey, the three of them had talked and they would like to do this. And that was an emotional moment for me, and I just thought that was just a total treasure that they had thought through this and they had offered this.
Wiseman's wife, Carol, was a neonatal nurse. She passed away of cancer back in 2020. During Apollo 8, that was clear back in 1968, astronaut Jim Lovell bestowed his wife's name on a prominent lunar peak, Mount Marilyn, as it's still called to this very day. On Wall Street, oil prices were actually higher, but that did not drive stock prices lower. The Dow closed up about 278 points. More from townhall.com.
Sight and Sound Films presents Benjamin Franklin, Reverend Whitfield, A Match Made in Heaven, or just a deal made in a print shop. Two voices.
My friends, you want to be free.
One idea.
The Constitution needs to speak to the heart of these people.
A new nation.
You are the lightning bolt, George. I am just the lightning rod. And who is the source, Ben?
A Great Awakening. Now playing theaters. Great Awakening. Details rated PG-13.
Veterans
veterans and active duty service members. When your call to service ends, your mission doesn't have to. Go from GI to IT in just a few months at My Computer Career. Prepare for a high-demand career in cybersecurity, protecting people, systems, and institutions from real cyber threats. Cyber warriors are needed now. Will you answer the call? Go to mycomputercareer.edu/CWP to learn more. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP, an elite CompTIA certification partner. VA education benefits are available to those who qualify.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Some scattered showers will move in Friday morning, kind of mid to late morning, off and on into the afternoon, tapering off for the evening. A low of 60, a high of 70. It's a little cooler day, but that's still above normal. And then Saturday, 75. There's a 30% chance for an isolated shower, thundershower, mainly in the morning to midday. And then Sunday, a chance for a shower storm late afternoon, early evening. Otherwise windy and warmer with a high of 81. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
Fox News commentary with Brian Kilmeade next.
Need life insurance but have diabetes, high blood pressure, or on anxiety meds? If you're a 50-year-old male, even porky, or with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of life insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. For affordable term life insurance, call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013. 800-444-2013 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. 800-444-2013.
Brian Kilmeade.
I don't think any parent's to blame for their kid's entire behavior. You got to do the best you can every moment you can. For example, if you're a latchkey kid in the 70s and 80s, you go home, you can watch television all day and you're bad for that. Or you can hang out with the wrong crowd. That was the danger. Now when you come home, if both parents work, you got to tell your kid who's 13, 14, 15, don't use your phone. Please, don't use your phone. I mean, you thought it was easy. Don't put on the TV. Just do your homework. If software can do anything, AI can do anything. So why can't they make it impossible with a fingerprint? The only necessary in your house, the only one that can open up a certain amount of apps is the fingerprint of a parent. There are things that I'm not even thinking of that can be done. But there's a sentiment in this country that it's got to be done. You know, it's like walking the wrong way in traffic. Why would you let your kid do it? That's how dangerous social media is going to turn out to be in a few years.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Here's my problem.
Completely agree with your sentiments.
He talks about we're divided. Well, yeah, we are.
And we need to wake up as a country and realize what's going on.
101.9 and 94.1.
Number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Jam-packed 2 o'clock hour there with Dr. Randy Tobler, Paul Curtman from PR Curtman Investments, and Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to understand where the Democratic Party is. That article that she has up now at the dailywire.com, Virginia does, about Hassan Piker. We were talking about that just a few minutes ago with Virginia. That shows you if you only need one piece of evidence of how far gone and how far left and how anti-Semitic and just the lunacy of the left. Go and check out that article and learn a little bit more about Hassan Piker, who now the Democrats are officially working with and going on his shows and bringing him to events. Just absolutely wild stuff. All right, we continue the conversation this hour. My co-host from the Bluff City Outdoors Show will be in studio with us in about 20 minutes. And right now in studio, I love it when company comes over. Our very own producer, Emily Worthmore, is here. You travel the world more than anybody I know. And
I'm trying. Got to see it all.
So you, last time we talked to you, we talked about your trip to see the Turning Point USA halftime show. And then not this past weekend, the weekend before, you were down in Dallas, Texas for CPAC.
Yes, CPAC.
Yeah.
CPAC was so cool. It's my first CPAC, too.
So Emily works, she's part of the student government at Lindenwood University here, but all of her opinions are her own and do not reflect anyone else.
Disclaimer on that.
Very, very important disclaimer.
Independent.
But, through your work in student government and, just your, I don't know, I think the list of organizations that you work with is too long to mention. But because of all of those things, you get to go to a lot of these different events. And I love when you're able to come on here and talk to us about them, because I think it shows a side of what's happening with the younger generation and what's happening with the people, that are, the ones that are super engaged with our news and politics and elections are the ones that are meeting in places like Dallas for CPAC.
Yeah.
And these are important, the meetings and the decisions and the things that you guys talk about at these events, have massive impact on the future.
I mean, the straw polls, even things like that they use is actual. It's like crazy to vote in one of those to be part of the approval rating.
So, thanks for coming in, and I wanted you to give an opportunity to share some of those experiences, some of which I think might surprise some people, and also maybe surprise some people, and also maybe the people that do know some of these things would rather not everybody know about them. So it's important that we do tell these stories. For example, now obviously a lot has happened in the last week and a half since you were at CPAC in Iran and with the situation with the war in the Middle East and all of that. But you encountered a lot of Iranian people at this event that have an opinion that I think the left would not want people to hear.
I was shocked because this demographic, first of all, thank you for having me on, but I was shocked because the demographic, I've never seen so many Iranians in one place. They had MAGA hats, Make Iran Great Again. I might have seen more of those than MAGA hats, which is just crazy.
Wow.
So many of them, and they saw me, I had a microphone with me, and people were coming up to me wanting me to interview them because they felt so strongly about
they wanted to
they
wanted their message.
wanted to be talked. So
they wanted
saw,
to get their message
they saw me interviewing people, and they're like, "Are you a journalist?" And they're like, "Can you do an interview with me?" Because they really just want to express they
want people to hear
want this
their
regime
voices
down. Stressing that Iran is a country and that the bad guys in there are not, it's a generalization to say Iranian people are bad. It's not that. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that they have been overtaken by a regime and they want it to fall, and they want the United States to help. Their approval rating of Trump, the people I've talked to, which I talked to a lot of them, they're like, he's doing great. This is amazing. We want him to bomb our country more and end this. They want the help. And it was crazy. They had the Crown Prince of Iran who, I could foresee that if things were to go in our favor with this whole conflict, we would, he'd be the one who gets placed into power over there in the ideal world. He was speaking, and when he spoke, I was only able to get in because I had a media credential. It was so packed that all my friends, I had to leave them in the hallway and go in with my media credential, and then they actually cut off media. So if I were to leave, that's it. You can't come back in. It was so packed. The room was at capacity with people who wanted to see the Iranian Crown Prince because they're so strong about putting him into power over what's going on over there right now. And that's not reported on. I posted some clips of interviews that I got, and people are talking, nobody's falling for this propaganda, blah, 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 blah. It's I don't think it's propaganda when I just saw a room full of thousands of people who are saying the same thing. This is very obviously a fact that there's people who want change in that country.
You're right. And that is not reported on. And that's why that's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on to tell these stories, because it needs to be talked about more. But what is reported on, and we touched on this with Virginia in the last segment, you've got people like this guy and this Democrat in Michigan that's running for U.S. Senate who, after Trump, when Trump launched Operation Epic Fury a few weeks ago, it was leaked it was leaked in the media that his internal memo to his campaign staff and the audio of a meeting was leaked. So it was in memo form, and he said it to his people, like, hey, when we don't, if you're talking to if anybody on this campaign team is talking to the media or talking to the public, we don't say anything about Operation Epic Fury. If it gets brought up, the line is, I don't have it in front of me anymore. I read the quote verbatim, when the story broke a couple weeks ago, but it was, something very close to, if they do bring it up, we classify it as this pedophile sex crime president drags us into another illegal military conflict, just totally spinning it the way it's not. And then part of that was because we have a lot of really sad, upset Iranian citizens in our area, and we don't want to hurt them any more than they've already been hurt. So that gets reported on. And I mean, and he was getting criticized for those reports, but it shows you that the mindset of the Democratic Party wants to paint the picture of, like, we're killing the people over there and we're hurting democracy and freedom, where the truth, in large part, it's never 100%, but in a much larger percentage than the left and the mainstream media wants to admit, is that the people of Iran, the citizens, want to see this regime eliminated and violently eliminated, bombed off the face of the earth, so they can take control of their future and their lives.
100%. That was what I was getting out of CPAC. Like, I never would have thought that was a demographic I was going to see in such overwhelming numbers there, but it was a huge takeaway. Another one, there was a large population of people from South Korea at CPAC, and they had the former prime minister of South Korea, who I got to speak with, and that was really cool. It was my first time doing an interview with somebody who wasn't speaking my language, so I was just like nodding when he was talking because I don't know what to do. And then when his translator would translate,
right.
So I'm like, I don't know what the right thing to do is in this case. So I was just like, yes,
Yeah.
yes. But
Keep
then his
talking.
translator would explain, and they were there talking about election fraud and how it's like ruined a lot of their country's elections, and why we should not, allow any gateway drug to election fraud in our country. Why it's so important to lock in. I mean, with the Save Act and all of that we have going on here, and like stressing that has really taken a toll on South Korea. And I thought it was so funny because they were handing out these hats that say, instead of stop election fraud in South Korea, it just said election fraud in South Korea. It was like just a ton of election fraud hats that were like advertising it almost. I think that was just like kind of a language gap there on like, the meaning of the hat.
Or a way to get somebody's
But everybody thought they were
attention.
funny.
Yeah.
And so it's just like seeing other countries and they're bringing to the table their issues that they have, and almost like a warning to America. That was a huge like impact moment that I'm not going to forget.
Talking to our very own producer, Emily Worthmore, about her trip to Dallas and CPAC a couple weekends ago. So obviously a lot of talk about Iran. And I think, again, really important to hear from and get the perspective of the Iranian people that were clamoring to get the message out that they are very supportive, many of them, are very supportive of President Trump and Operation Epic Fury, and want to see, as much military action and continue the bombings until that terrorist regime that has run their lives for decades is finally eliminated. And then you mentioned also, so Iran was a big topic. I think election security is, all of these political gatherings over the last couple of years, especially since the 2020 election. obviously has been a number one priority. What were some of the other topics? What were some of the main topics of CPAC and some of the action items that the speakers and the conservative groups there are wanting to see, people focus on as we go towards the midterm elections?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously winning midterms as a generalization is easier said than done.
Yeah,
but that was a huge, we got to win
that's important.
midterms.
I mean, we just had an election here yesterday or Tuesday in Missouri, and in St. Charles County,
10% of voter turnout.
St. Charles County was
15%,
18, which was high. Everybody was shocked at how high that was. 13% in Jefferson County.
Yeah.
Just awful voter
I think it was
turnout.
10 in St. Louis or something like that. I saw somebody posted something about how low it was.
Yeah, I think it's been under 10 in April elections.
I got my sticker.
Yeah, I did. I had mine too. It's not generic to say focus on the midterm elections because, unfortunately, there's not enough people that vote in a presidential election. So even though it's a national November election coming up in the midterms, voter participation
That's a big one.
and educating people about the elections even happening, and then what the important issues on the ballot are is hugely important.
They also had Nick Shirley was a big name that was there. He spoke towards the end of the day, so the media totally twisted that and made it seem like people weren't at CPAC. But the thing is, it was just at the end of the day, and people left by the time he got there. I mean, you got a lot of demographic of elderly too. Honestly, if I'm honest, that's a big population. It's people don't stay all night, but it was great because we got great views to see Nick Shirley.
Right.
And he was talking about all the fraud that's going on in the country, which huge. That's huge. Why do we have that? So that was an awesome one. RFK. That was cool to see. We were a couple rows away from RFK speaking about, health and just how you can also the concept of how you can come from being not healthy and, totally turn your life around. And that's a choice. I think that was just inspirational in general and cool to see him that up close too.
Absolutely. The fraud, you bring up such a great point. And, with everything happening with the war in Iran and then here locally having an election this week, and everything else that is happening, there's a lot of major issues and major things happening that just haven't gotten the attention that they should. We reported on it a couple weeks ago that Donald Trump created this fraud elimination task force, essentially, that is ran by, he put J.D. Vance, the vice president, in charge of that department. And we've already seen, I've got two stories just from today that we won't have time to get into completely, but more being exposed about the Minnesota fraud and the Somali community's fraud scandal there with Keith Ellison being a big part of it. And there's another developing fraud case that has been exposed and really highlighted by this task force that the vice president is now heading up in California about millions and millions of dollars being stolen essentially in a hospice fraud coming out of California.
Is that? I think Nick Shirley's been doing that too because I know he was doing stuff in California.
Yeah. So no, I think if there wasn't a war happening, we would hear a lot more about these things. But it is important that we do talk about them and that people are aware of these because it's not just there was this one big fraud thing that happened in Minnesota and holy cow, look how bad it was. They're finding instances of this all around the country,
right?
And we need to root that out.
Yeah,
as part of our priority push towards the midterm election. How do you feel right now in general after visiting CPAC, after having these conversations, being on the ground, at a place like that? How do you feel about the cohesion of conservative voters in general and the momentum that they have moving towards the midterm elections? Do you feel positive about that momentum, or do you feel like there's a major hill to climb?
I especially, when I am answering that question, I think about my own generation because it's easier to be in touch, and the media totally makes it seem like we're not even in it, especially at an event like CPAC. I'm like, well, I know we are because I made friends there that are my age, from not only America, but also conservatives in Australia and all across the country, that are rooting for America, and so I feel really good about it. And it's upsetting when it gets twisted. Like, just like reading the articles that came out of CPAC, the pictures that they'd take, like these photographers were taking pictures of us like crazy. Like the group I was with, we wore cowboy hats one day, and like I was expecting to be on the cover of because we were all over. But I followed the photographers to see what they do with this work.
Yeah.
And one of them was really nice. She's like, people are probably going to be mean in the comments, when I post, because I have a lot of liberal followers. But I'm like, that's okay. Just like pick a picture I look good in. But some of the photos, like they're just twisting it to like get the worst moments, of like just making people look bad. It's like trying to make people look physically bad, to push a narrative on like, oh, you see, they're obese or they're, so like unhealthily skinny or like whatever it is. Like they're just taking
like
the most drastic.
There's nobody that take a picture of an angle where there doesn't seem to be anybody.
Yes, exactly.
In the audience.
Two of my friends, they got posted by Variety, and they just whitewashed the photo, like made it look so bright that it's like, look at these two white boys, and it's like, it's like, this is just stupid. It's like they look normal in person, but the way it twists, so like you wouldn't know it if you weren't there. But the way I was able to go into this knowing nobody and come out with friends in the conservative movement that I think have a great head on their shoulder, actually in Missouri too, in colleges, in Mizzou, I'm like, I feel good about where we're going.
Yeah. That's good to hear. And it's also important to understand that it's at every level. It's not just CNN and MSNBC that are, or people like AOC that are out there, twisting the truth or twisting the message. It's probably even worse at the lower levels, like social media and all these, these types.
And I had media credentials while I was there, so I went up to sit when it was packed. I was sitting with my friends most of the time, but I went to the media section because that's the only section you could get into at one point. And I went up there, and I was dressed for the occasion, patriotic, happy, I don't know. And just the looks the media gave me when I went up there to sit with the media as somebody who actually, enjoyed being there.
Yeah.
It was so funny. At one point, like somebody in the media actually took my picture being in the media. And I was like, it's just funny because it's not what they expect, because all the media is we're supposed to hate this event. Why don't you hate it, collectively?
You're a politically engaged college student who's a conservative.
Right.
And we're told that doesn't exist.
I don't.
You're not supposed to. You're not real.
Defying the laws.
You're not supposed to be real. But there's way more of you than people realize, or that the media would ever give any credit to. And that's why it's really important to have these conversations. And I always appreciate your time. That is producer Emily Worthmore, just back from CPAC. And I'm sure you'll be off to another exotic location soon, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks for coming in, Kil. Great to see
you. Good seeing you.
Great stuff there. All right, before we wrap things up, hand it off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. We are going to talk to my co-hosts from the Bluff City Outdoors Show. Bluff City Outdoors Show every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. here on News Talk STL. Talk to those guys about some of the issues of the day. Also about, this weather and how it's time to be getting outside and taking advantage of it. Mark McMurray from Bluff City Outdoors in studio with us next.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk. If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs Attorney at Law has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs Attorney at Law. Call 636-949-0010, extension 3 today, or visit colecombs-law.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Hey, would you like to join me in a new venture? It could make a lot of money. Can't guarantee it will. Can it be fun? Yes, but also dangerous. Here's the idea. The Straits of Hormuz are open again. Well, at this very moment they are, or they're not. But if they're open, how about a cruise through the Hormuz? Just think of it. Right where oil tankers pass on their way to China, Russia, if the strait is open. And there's a possibility while cruising the Hormuz, we might see rockets overhead. Maybe close up. A sense of adventure, the excitement. Are you interested in this cruise on the Hormuz? You need to book early, get premium accommodations. This is the adventure of a lifetime, the opportunity of a lifetime. What do we need? We just need all your credit card information, all your Social Security information, and we can book your trip. Book a trip for you, for a friend. Book a trip for an enemy. The Larry Connors USA cruising the Hormuz. Oh, and we also need a list of your next of kin.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Spring weather has everyone sneezing, even inside their home or building. Instead of saying Gesundheit, call Wellington Environmental to perform air tests to determine if mold levels are too high. Gesundheit is the same as saying bless you after someone sneezes, the German word meaning wishing you good health. Wellington Environmental can perform air testing that is simple, fast, and can identify issues keeping you from having good health. Wellington does the same for hospitals and nursing homes for indoor concerns. Give them a call. It's simple. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. Tell Cindy, I need air sampling. They've seen it all. They can help you. Next time you hear Gesundheit, think Wellington. Wellington Environmental. Be well with Wellington.
Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney.
You're drinking water, eating clean, but still exhausted. This week, we uncover the hidden mineral deficiencies that could be draining your energy and slowing your metabolism. Don't miss it.
Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney. Saturdays at noon on News Talk STL. To find out more about Simply Health Integrated Medical, log on to simplyhealthintegrated.com.
Hunters, now is the time to get ready. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors. Listen, don't wait until the season opener to dial that bow in. Whistle Pig offers paper tuning, bow adjustments, string replacement, and custom arrows. Plus, Hoyt and Bear archery bows, crossbows from 10 Point and Raven, and accessories from all of the top brands. Archery season opens in September, but now is the time to practice and get ready. Whistle Pig Outdoors in Troy, Missouri. Visit whistlepigoutdoors.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
Reminding you that with Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. If you have missed any of the great conversations that we've had today, make sure you are subscribed to our podcast. It's the best way to make sure that that never happens and that you catch every great conversation that we have on the show. We talked to Dr. Randy Tobler in the 2 o'clock hour, Paul Curtman, Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. Just wrapped up that conversation with Emily Worthmore about her trip to CPAC. And we put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day on basically every podcast platform. So whatever podcast or platform you get podcasts on, just subscribe to Colombo and Company. All right, as I mentioned, in studio with us now, my co-host from Bluff City Outdoors and the Bluff City Outdoors show, Mark McMurray, is in studio. Great to see you, buddy.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Looking forward to this weekend's show. We are going to talk to a gold prospector. I can't wait for this conversation.
Yeah, that's going to be a little different.
Right? Yeah. So obviously we talk a lot about fishing and hunting and trapping and all the outdoor activities every week on the Bluff City Outdoors show. It's a great disconnect from
the rest of the world.
From the rest of the world. And yeah, there's nothing better for the soul than to just get away from the news cycle and get out on the water and go fishing or get out in the woods. So we talk, and we'll have the fishing report for you this week and all of that stuff. But we're also, our one of our guests this week is a current day gold prospector.
Yeah, ran into him
When
out
do
at
you
the
get to have
Kansas
that
City
conversation?
show, and while we're out there, and just met him and said, "Man, that'd be a cool guest to have."
Yeah,
So
yeah. I don't think people realize that still exists.
I don't think so either.
That's still that is still something that people do, and there's a whole lot more that goes into it, obviously, than when you think of the gold rush, of old times. But yeah, there's a lot more technology, there's a lot more equipment, and there's a lot of investment that goes into it. So these guys, they have to find the right spots to go, because if they don't, they're losing a bunch of money instead of making any money. And
yeah, it's going to be interesting, just see how all that works. Like I said, they got
you said
organization.
You came across this guy at one of the outdoor conventions.
Yeah,
earlier
it
this
was
year?
at the Kansas City boating fishing show. Yep, just ran into him.
That's so cool.
While we were setting up, saw their booth. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I thought, man, that'd be a good guest. I mean, it's definitely outdoors. So.
Yeah, that's definitely outdoors. Can't wait for that. Make sure you're tuned in this and every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. for the Bluff City Outdoors show here on News Talk STL. Today is a beautiful day. Hopefully, we've seen nice days, and we've had warm weather this year already, but we haven't put together a long stretch of it consistently. Hopefully, we start to do that soon. What's it been? What's the impact of this weather been?
Oh, yeah, we've been a lot busier.
Yeah.
More people are getting out fishing. Fishing is just outstanding right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is the beginning of it, and it's just going to stay that way for 6-8 weeks.
This is a super exciting time for the fishing community, because it is kind of the unofficial start to the season, kind of go time to get back out there on the water. It's also turkey season, and turkey season is right around the corner, I think, in Illinois, and it just started in Missouri, or vice versa. You get the picture. And I know that archery hunting in Turkey is not as prevalent as it is with deer hunting, but still something that
There's some guys that do it though.
Yeah. Still something that you can help with that community. Of course, all your bow hunting needs, all your fishing needs, trapping needs, and more. 7 days a week out there at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, about a mile east of Fast Eddie's. We never get a chance to talk politics on that show intentionally, because we like to have fun. Unless politics bleeds over into the outdoor world, then we may cover it. But that's one of the good things about getting Mark in here throughout the week, because we can touch on some of these stories. I wanted to just highlight the difference between these two statements from these two gentlemen that reportedly belong to the same party and should be on the same side of things. I'm going to read you these two quotes, and I want to get your thoughts on it. The first is from Chuck Schumer. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer yesterday blasted Donald Trump as a, quote, military moron. The statement, quote, Trump is a military moron. His war, with a price tag of $44 billion and $4+ gas, made us worse off today than when we started it. And if he restarts this war, we'll be in even worse shape. We must pass our war powers resolution to end this war for good. That's Chuck Schumer, Senate Democrat. Here's another Senate Democrat, John Fetterman. Quote, now it might force them to continue more kinds of military strikes, but remind everyone their nuclear ambitions have been severely damaged at this point. The Israelis have killed many of the scientists and destroyed a lot of the facilities as well. Every single thing Iran has done is an entire war crime. Now we are the force of good in the world. He went on to say that Donald Trump's military strikes in Iran have, quote, made the world a safer place. Which Democrat should we listen to, Mark?
Well, I'm going to have to agree more with Fetterman on that. That's kind of common sense.
Yeah. Fetterman was actually responding directly to the quote from Chuck Schumer when he was asked that, and he said that his party leader, that he had exactly the opposite belief.
Yeah, it's amazing that it's just diametrically opposed.
Yeah, the gas price situation obviously is one of the main talking points of this issue. It's interesting, in the St. Louis area, because we are right on the border here. The difference of gas prices between Illinois and Missouri are always on like full display.
Oh yeah, it's it's about 30 to 40 cents now.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel just overall, without digging into, all the specifics and details, but just like where we are at with this war, and public sentiment and support here in the United States? Because if you were to believe the mainstream media or folks like Chuck Schumer, we're on a path to destruction and $10 a gallon gas prices. That's the side that seems to get the most attention.
It is, and it's a shame. I mean, if you had, in my opinion, objective reporting, just reporting what's going on, be factual, be honest, I think the public would get behind it, because so many people don't know Iran's history, that they were a free people. I mean, I went to college at SIU with there was a ton of Iranian students at SIU, great people, and you had your ones that, a lot of them were Christians, a lot of them were Muslim. The Muslims, they followed, they wore their attire. The Christians, I got to know a lot of them. They were just shocked when that happened and glad to be here.
Emily Worthmore, producer Emily, who was just in right before you, she recently was at CPAC in Dallas, and she was talking about all the Iranian people that she met and talked to while she was down there in Texas that were promoting more. They wanted more bombing of their own country. They wanted
that regime gone. I mean, and it's got to be.
They don't want them arrested and removed.
No.
They want them bombed off the face of the earth.
Yeah, they have to be handled just like the Nazis were after World War II. Yeah, basically they hunted them down.
You never hear those voices, though. She said that many of them were because she had her media credentials on and she had was interviewing people, that many of them were coming up to her asking to be interviewed, because nobody hears from them. Nobody hears from the Iranian.
Here's that side.
Yeah, the Iranian citizens or the Iranian people, not the government. And they want their voices to be heard. And many of them are in support of what is happening over there. You mentioned accuracy in media. CNN did not have any accuracy yesterday. Did you see the Michael J. Fox?
I did,
So did Michael J. Fox.
Yes.
So CNN on their website yesterday ran a big piece celebrating the life and remembering the great life of actor Michael J. Fox, the legend who apparently was no longer with us right up until Michael J. Fox himself read that obituary and then immediately responded to it on social media.
Yeah.
How does that happen? How does that happen? How do you... So CNN said, the package was published in error. We have removed it from our platforms and sent our apologies to Michael J. Fox and his family. That's from a spokesperson at CNN. First of all, why? I mean, I know that there's always these, it's a little bit morbid, but any old celebrity or sick celebrity, these media organizations put together their death.
I guess have it ready.
Yeah, have it ready to go. I wonder how Michael J. Fox feels knowing that he's on that list. But how does that happen? How do you push the button to publish something like that?
Yeah. Somebody sees something on the internet, and hey, that must be. Let's get out there first.
So if you thought Michael J. Fox is dead, he's not. And he's alive and well, and he's responded personally to those reports, and that's pretty funny stuff. All right, we're about out of time here, but don't forget to tune in this Saturday morning, 11 a.m., to the Bluff City Outdoors Show right here on News Talk STL, and visit Bluff City Outdoors in Alton for all your outdoor needs. They are open 7 days a week, about a mile east of Fast Eddie's there on East Broadway. All of your fishing needs, all your bow hunting needs, all of your trapping needs, all your Garmin electronic needs. You can shoot every day in the archery range there at Bluff City Outdoors, and so much more. Check them out at bluffcityoutdoors.com and follow them on Facebook. All right, we're back tomorrow at 2. O'Reilly next, then Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The Herzog Tomorrow Foundation provides private school tuition scholarships through Missouri's new Most Scholars program to cover the cost of accessible, high-quality schooling.
Hi, this is Myella Esser with the Herzog Tomorrow Foundation. Our private school tuition scholarships wouldn't be possible without the support of generous Missouri taxpayers. If you're a Missouri taxpayer interested in redirecting your tax dollars and sending them to Missouri students in need of a better education, please contact me at herzogmostscholars.org.
Better education for